Hey, welcome to another episode of the Armed and Ready podcast. I'm your host, Jason Wood, the VA loan guy. We have a really cool guest today, someone from the Australian Army, Anthony Meisner. Come check it out. We have Anthony Meisner from the Australian Army with us today. So a really cool treat for everyone listening today. Anthony, welcome to the show, man. Thank you for spending some time with us.
G'day, mate. How you going?
Good, good. So this is an unusual treat. You know, normally we're talking to people here in the States. So it's pretty cool that we're able to link up with you. And I know it's pretty early in the morning in Australia, but we appreciate you making the effort to be with us today.
Not a problem, mate. It's a privilege and a pleasure to come on.
Cool. Well, tell us a little bit about your background. So you served in the Australian Army for 19 years, and you're running a nonprofit now. So tell us a little bit and about your military journey. You know, tell us, why did you decide to join the military, and what did you do?
Mate, I think it's pretty relevant to September 11. I was sitting at home watching September 11 on TV, and we'd just been down to the recruiting office to join up at 17 years old. You can join up in Australia. And we just sort of signed up and went home watching having breakfast, and saw it all on TV, and it become kind of real. From there, we joined up in the infantry in the Army, and spent the next 18 years. I mean, it was a really busy time for us. And we had the privilege of sort of deploying to some pretty good hotspots around the world. The reason for joining, I think, is probably everyone's. Is a little bit of had a little bit of a service to country and moving forward with life. I was 17 years old. You haven't got much direction, and the Army is a good way of really keeping on the straight and narrow, isn't it? So
yeah, absolutely. So you were in the infantry. I'm sure you went on quite a few different deployments over that type of that span of time, over 18 years. Where did you go?
So we deployed to the Solomon Islands was our first trip, and that was a peacekeeping operation, which is just off the east coast of Australia. And there was a particular group of locals that had sort of risen up, and there was an Australian federal police officer that had been killed. And the Australian Army was asked by the Solomon Islands government to come in and try and stabilise the region. And that was, quite a good deployment and a nice way to sort of kick things off. Solomons went to Timor after that, Timor-Leste, to help out with the government getting independence from Indonesia. And that was a stabilisation peacemaking operation. And that was 2006. And then over to Iraq on a sector, which is like an embassy security and a DFAT protection party. And then to Afghanistan in 2009, doing omelette sort of training local forces, ANA National Army, teaching them to go out as a AAA sort of advise, assist a company, teaching them to effectively soldier in contact. So, yeah.
Nice, man. Yeah, you saw a lot of action then. That's pretty cool. Any fun stories that come to mind from your time in?
There's a lot of there's a lot of fun stories. I mean, there's ups and downs as well, but I think driving around when you're a 17-year-old kid flying into the Solomons, and we were combat loading in, so they had no doors on the sides of the chopper and stuff like that. And going in and really sort of, it really grows you up real quick when you're like, well, this is kind of real now. So here we go.
It's not a movie, right?
No, there was no cool soundtrack, mate, at all.
That's funny. Did you have any time in any of your deployments, like interacting with the U.S. military? Did you guys spend any time working together on stuff?
Oh, mate. All of our deployments Iraq and Afghanistan was working with the Coalition of the Willing. America, Canada, I can't remember but we constantly working, especially in Iraq and Afghanistan, worked quite closely with you guys. You guys I think we were there for the surge in 2000 2007 when you guys surged 750,000 troops into Iraq.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a busy time for you guys. And sitting on we were doing security for the embassy, and that embassy was also the main entry control point for the American cash for all your casualties that would come in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, sitting on that position as more of a security detail and watching the stuff that, Marines and Army coming in pieces, mate. It was really and the American soldiers were always like, hey, you guys, we really appreciate you guys coming here. Yeah, real humble guys, man. Love working with them. Still love working with them,
That's great. That's great. It's always interesting to me, like the coalition aspect, and having the different militaries working together and just kind of piecing that all together, because I'm sure we all have different procedures and different ways of processing information and stuff like that to create an action. Did you guys find it, challenging to get to work with, whether it was us or any of the other countries, or did it all come together pretty cohesively?
I think working with America and England, we're all, the tactics and techniques are kind of very similar to, the things are done, the terminology is slightly different, but the way you guys run your sections and platoons or squads and platoons is very similar to us. Okay. Yeah, interoperability with the Americans was never a problem. A lot of our equipment has got a lot of crossover. Okay. I think that's so that, if it scales, we can plug straight into you guys. Obviously the big brother of Australia. So
oh, very cool, man. So after your time in the military, you got out. Tell me what that was like, your decision to leave the military, become a civilian. What was it like getting out of the military there?
Yeah, I think it's because you spent so long in the military, and you there's that point of institutionalization, but there's also that camaraderie that you get working in teams that your mates have got your back no matter what, and leaving that group where you have a clearly defined role, clearly defined identity. You are a platoon sergeant or, in 3 platoon, and then you get out and you're just another bare bum in the shower, and, finding that identity and that purpose to not just sit at home and sort of waste away was a challenging. I didn't think, I thought, because of all the studies we'd done setting up proactive charity, I thought I was armed and ready to succeed. But yeah, man, it's a big transition step, and it doesn't have to be scary, but you've got to go into it with a plan. Otherwise, you sort of flounder around.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, let's talk about that. So Swiss8 is your charity that you are helping run. So did you go straight from military service into starting that up?
Yeah, there was a bit of a crossover where, as I was transitioning out, we had sort of that ability to sort of set it up, and really just move from one into the next. The other, like the CEO and founder, Adrian Sutter, he came on, and he really was running it pretty bare bones and skeleton for 18 months until we started to grow it. But the feedback we got from those early days was really the drive to keep moving forward with it.
So tell us a little bit about Swiss8. So, you guys are helping, combat military veterans. And is it helping them with mental illness type of stuff, PTSD, or what are you guys doing?
So it's the VA and our DVA, we call it here, Department of Veteran Affairs, is similar. Our process, because we're such a small military compared to you guys, we have managed to, there's still dramas, mate. There's still issues with the process and looking after boys, but all in all, I think the Australian government's doing a pretty good job of doing it. And we saw an issue where guys were getting out and we had an acute mental health model. So, a guy is drank 2 bottles of bourbon and he's got some shit he hasn't dealt with and he's sort of going to do something. He probably needs some help. And we realized that the acute model is probably not the point where you can help these people. There are services involved, but when they're at that point to help them and to get them out and to get them the help they need, it's a long road back. Yeah. And so we thought, let's teach, like the military, let's teach them some rules around proactive mental health where guys can get in, they learn, maybe from boot camp or from, just being a high performer, not trying to change the stigma of mental health, but teaching them human optimization. And as a byproduct, you'll have good mental health, and we'll teach these skill sets to guys. And if the wheels do fall off, they already have some routines and some concepts that they can lean onto to get them back on the road to recovery quicker.
That's really awesome. I think that's such an important gap to fill for our veterans in both countries. Tell me a little bit about what it was like to build this thing. I mean, you've been in it since the ground floor, basically. This was at ground zero, and you guys have built it up to where it is today. Take me through that process. I mean, building a nonprofit is not an easy task by any means. You've got to set it up. You got to get people. You got to get money, all that sort of thing, on top of lay out your plan and how you're going to do everything you intend to do, right? So take us through that process a little bit.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's hard when you're the new kid on the block. And obviously we're a charity, so we can't get angel investors or capital funding from people that want returns on their investment. So to go forward with your hand out, and we didn't want to be a slimy sort of sleazy charity that sort of opened up and just was another organization putting their hand in the ring for what is a limited amount of funding. But initially, you need that government funding. You need to apply for grants. So in Australia, you can apply for grants. We got a couple of grants together, real small ones, and we sort of sat there and we ran it through a tech accelerator, like I think Google does. Google did a similar sort of thing where, because they had so much money, they were constantly throwing cash at every single idea that sort of popped up. And then they sort of realized, we are wasting a lot of money. We got to fail these business ideas before we start investing in them. So we took it through a tech accelerator, which was over a 3-month period. Tried to fail the idea and sort of kill the baby, so that you don't, because everyone's got their puppy and no one wants to have feedback. It survived the Slingshot Accelerator, and then I think the point of difference that set us up was that lived experience piece. People trusted the brand initially, and they trusted the people behind the brand, and it was combat experienced veterans who weren't super polished and weren't businessmen per se. And from there, people jumped on board, mate, and it just grew momentum after momentum. But it was a struggle, man. It still is. We're still sort of moving forward. But yeah, the growth's been phenomenal.
That's cool. Yeah, I think you hit on it too, is the people that are involved. And I think having the right cast of people with their hearts in the right place. I mean, that's definitely something that can set one charity apart from another, for sure.
Yeah, I think it's just having that lived experience. I think that was the point. I mean, there's some large charities in Australia that try to help, but the vets, a lot of the boys are like, they can smell bullshit when they see it. So yeah. We just try to be true to ourselves, and we had a mission, and that was to stop veterans burying their mates, and that was our business plan. That was our mission statement. and we just stayed with it. And we used that as the test to see where we would sort of move forward with different ideas and different concepts.
Nice. So what do you guys do for treatment and stuff to get their mental health in line?
So at the moment, we've got it's an application you can download on your phone, and it's free to all allied forces and coalition forces around the world. And it offers programming in 8 key areas of life. So like a holistic programming. So fitness, health, fitness, nutrition, sleep, mindfulness, personal growth, minimalism, and all these things we teach people just to have a look at their life and learn some introspection. And then from there, that app is just the standard thing that you'll always have, right? And from there, we start doing events every month in Australia where we get guys together. We might take them hunting, teach them to skinning animals, or hunting, collect your meat, scuba diving, skydiving, spearfishing, and get boys doing active events, linking them up with vets in their local areas, and doing it with a group of boys that you want to hang around with, and then we offer we sort of put together 2 hard reset programs, which are guys who could be either looking for that next edge in human optimization, or if they're struggling a bit, maybe they need a hard reset. Maybe they've been on the booze too much, or maybe they can feel the wheels sort of falling off. And we take them away for 2 week. We wanted to just sort of do 3 to 4 weeks, but people have got lives. So we sort of did a 2-week block, and we take them away, and we have nutritionalists, fitness coaches, yogis all come in, and it's kind of it's a really intensive 2-week course just of setting routines and a couple of lessons a day, a couple of hours of just teaching, and then we'll go and put some stuff into practice, and then go do some cool shit at the end of it.
That's awesome. What's your feedback been like from the people that have come to you for help?
Mate, we initially, you're worried about, because this is a very important thing. This is people's lives that you're sort of dealing with. And we there was a lot of late nights thinking, are we doing this right? Like, are our intentions in the right spot? Are we capable of pulling this off?
Right.
And then it just started with, DMs at 2 a.m. Guys, we did a podcast, and guys like, I just think that what you guys have done and said, and the way you impart that onto us, they loved it, mate. And we sort of realized we were onto a winning thing where we were helping people, and it was people that you wouldn't normally see reach out. We're talking our special forces dudes. So we had a lot of SAS guys reach out, a lot of 2 commando boys, and a lot of guys who'd done some heavy fighting in Afghan and Iraq, who would normally not reach out and say that how much it's helped them, mate.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest victory you can ask for, right? Is just that positive response. That's really, really cool. So what's next on the horizon, or what are you guys aiming for Swiss8? Where do you want to take it next?
Mate, funny shit. So we've got a couple of things going, mate. We decided to we've got a raffle going on at the moment. So that's our general funding model. It's an international raffle with an ex-SAS XO, and the guy's a legend over here, Mark Wales. He does kill capture, and he's got a it's called Tough Luxury. I think his stuff is high-end fashion in New York, like Tough Luxury, Madison Avenue stuff, man. So,
oh wow,
yeah, he's got some cool jackets. He was a Survivor contestant, and he just did the Bear Grylls Greatest Race on Earth, or Toughest Race on Earth. Yeah. So he's just done that, and so we jumped into a raffle with him to sort of raise a little bit of capital, and it's good, mate. And that's just a little thing we do mid-year. From there, mate, it's we're actually, you guys, what do you guys call Remembrance Day? November 11 is VE Day?
9/11 Day, yeah.
Yeah. November 11, the Remembrance Day.
Veterans Day, yeah.
Veterans Day, yeah. So in Australia, that's sort of our big Veterans Day is Anzac Day,
Okay.
which is 25th of April. And Remembrance Day happens, but a lot of it's sort of been forgotten in Australia. So we're just trying to reinvigorate that. And we're doing it by just starting off with, it's called a barbecue to remember. And it's about, we get A-grade celebrities, B-grade celebrities, and we're raffling them off so that you can auction them live and they can come to your place and they'll have a barbecue with your tailgate from 3 till stumps, like big old school Australian sports stars. Yeah, it's starting to really pick up, and that's kicking off on November the 11th. And we're going to come across to America next year, hopefully, and try and launch it there as well.
Oh, that's great, man. We'd love to see you here. That sounds like a lot of fun too.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see the smile on your face as you're talking about this stuff, and I can tell that you're really enjoying it as well.
Yeah, mate. I think you just have to do things that the guys would get behind, and getting your favorite sports star to come over for a beer and a barbecue for 3 till stumps and you get your mates around, and you can. They have a pack that they come with, and so if conversations come up around mental health, they're there to talk about it as well. So imagine being able to talk mental health stuff with some sports stars who go through the same kind of stuff that you do in the military when you leave. They're at the top of their game,
right?
And yeah, and they leave, over. And then yep,
and it's just over. That's it. Yeah.
So they deal with it. A lot of the guys from the sporting backgrounds go through that loss of purpose and loss of identity. Like if they don't get a commentator gig or
or a coaching job or something,
coaching job, they're done. 35, you're like, I don't know, what's the age in NFL where people retire?
Yeah, you're usually early to mid 30s if you've made it that long.
Yep. And then you're done.
Yeah. I mean, Tom Brady's probably the exception to that rule, but most guys physically are kind of tapped out at that point.
Yeah, what did he do? He got six rings with the Patriots.
Yeah.
And then he just got signed up. Who did he sign with?
With the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Tampa Bay. Yeah.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see that. He's an interesting specimen. Just the level of commitment he has to like his health and his nutrition and stuff like that, and reading stories about him. I mean, it's really impressive, and it makes sense why he's able to play. I mean, he's in his 40s now, and he's still playing at the top of his game. So, it kind of goes back to a lot of what you're teaching, which is a lot of that like daily regimen, that discipline of just following through on that routine all the time. Right. And, there's probably no better example out there than that guy. Of course, he's doing it at a level none of us could probably compare to, but but nonetheless,
routine's a big one, mate. Like, and you see that happening. So in Australia, when you see boys get on, so we have a pension over here, and guys will jump on the pension, and they come from a place where they're like, this is what time you get up, you do this, you do PT every day, and then they sit at home and they get on a pension, and for all intents and purposes, they think, oh, I'm better than that. It's not going to happen to me. And then you see them, some of them slowly just start, they start sleeping in, they go to bed later. And you watch them in over a space of a couple of months, just really start to struggle. And then once your routine's shot, it sort of goes over with your nutrition and your sleep. And yeah, man.
Yeah, 100%. What do you guys do to promote Swiss8? Do you use social media and podcasting and things of that nature?
Yeah, so we a lot of our stuff was done on social media, and we do some paid advertising around the larger events, for TV and stuff like that. Sure. Where we try and get the message out. A lot of Google ads, Google, and putting a lot of money into that. But word of mouth was the biggest one. We have a couple of different bases around Australia. and we just sort of inserted guys into those battalion location areas, and just had that point of contact there that could come forward, have a yarn, talk to people, and it sort of grew organically around. So, and then we fired up a podcast, and we thought, well, this was probably about a year ago. We thought, are people going to want to, like, I got a face for radio, mate. So I thought, oh, here we go. We're going to do a podcast. And it took off, mate. And I think the biggest one was, biggest feedback we got was guys were saying that it felt like there's three of us doing the podcast, and we just shoot the shit, mate. And the guys were saying it just felt like I was catching up with the boys again. And, we can broach some subjects that are not often talked about, mate.
It's good. That's really good. Yeah, that's fun. I think having that type of message is appealing. They can plug in. It feels like they're at home. That's really, really cool. What would you say, if you were to take some lessons learned from your military service and now with Swiss8 too, but what lessons have you learned throughout that life experience that have really kind of resonated with you to maybe keep you or have you be armed and ready?
I think have a plan, but don't worry if things change, because sometimes there's things that are out of your control, that we had an incident overseas. We'd spent 9 months training some Afghan National Army guys, and so we were pretty tight with them. And we just spent 9 months training them, and they drove over a 40-kilo IED, and they were in a Ranger, and there was, I don't know, 8 of them crammed into this Ford Ranger. And so we rocked up at the scene, and there were pieces of people everywhere, mate. And as a young Lance Corporal at the time, I turned to my mate and I was just like, what the fuck have we got ourselves into? And we were treating people that we'd eaten with and had chai with and really grown relationships with. And after that, we sort of, there was a little bit of dark humor involved, mate. Like when we started laughing and after the incident, and we sort of didn't understand what was going on. Like, oh, should we be like giggling? And it was dark humor, mate. It was trying to cope with a situation that your brain couldn't comprehend.
Yeah. And
I think that's probably the biggest lesson, is that don't go into a situation where you think you know how your body's going to react. Listen to the people that have been there, and you can't change the outcome. Sometimes you got to play the cards you get dealt, and just try to be honest with yourself, and the reactions you get are human reactions, mate. Yeah, I think that was the biggest one for me was the dark humor aspect. I was like, this doesn't feel right. We grew up in a society where we're respectful, where you're remorseful, and these things start coming into your head, and we get taught that certain lines of thinking is bad. So it can drive people down in a pretty nasty hole. Hey.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, I've seen some photos from some friends of mine who were kind of frontline during Iraq and Afghanistan. And man, those are some images that will never leave your head. You're not going to see it on the news, but that is some crazy stuff.
Yeah, I don't know how the boy, and they're young kids. A lot of them, man, I think the average age of the Australian Army is about 20 years old, mate, but for infantry.
Wow.
When you take out the warrant officers and you take out, but so they're young kids, mate. Like some of them I suppose you can't even drink in America yet. You can't drink in Australia, and you're in situations where, you're doing things that really there's no training to do. And they come back, mate, and they're like, how do I fit back in?
Yeah. Yeah, that's totally understandable. And I think that's, it's the same across, all branches, all countries, coming back to that, because it's not, it's a human thing. Like you were mentioning, it's not location specific or country specific, I mean, that's a human thing. When you see those tragedies and things that are just unnatural, to be able to deal with that is not something any of us are really prepared for.
No, not at all. I don't think you can. But I mean, it's good to see guys getting back, and there's some great things out there to help people. But I just, there's hundreds of thousands of veterans in America. I couldn't imagine the system coping too well, mate.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot. And there's a lot of really good charities here as well, helping out in that same space as you are. And I don't think there's ever enough, and the thing that's been neat to watch about that charity space is there's so many different angles from which people or these charities come from to help, and there's so many different ways of coping with this stuff. Some of it's companionship with animals or pets, and some of it's, volunteering, just doing work with other people. I mean, and there's so much, some of it's very medical, where you're in with doctors and you're retraining the brain. And I mean, there's so many different angles and aspects to it. It's definitely not, a one size fits all type of thing. I mean, there's a lot of complexities to it.
Yeah, I think as much as every single person's different, we had a couple of ESOs spring up, and there was some debate through the when I say ex-service organizations or veteran charities, and there was so many different springing up, and a lot of the old Vietnam vets were sort of asking, what's the utility of another ESO? But we were like, as much as people are different, some guys like riding motorcycles, some guys like animals, or there's different. I mean, they're doing studies on psilocybin and psychedelic mushrooms for treating PTSD. There's so many different angles, and I think people are really complex, that they need to have that one place where they can go to sort of to get help.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, Anthony, I just want to thank you for spending some time with us and sharing Swiss8 and sharing your story. It's been really, really great to hear what you guys are up to, and the fact that you're bringing it to the States too makes me even more excited. So I'm super pumped to see that, and I'll keep following you guys and make sure we help you get the word out when you guys are here, and just love that you're helping vets, man. That's awesome.
Cheers, mate. I really appreciate it. And we'll look you up when we get over the States next year. Thanks very much, mate.
Right on. Thank you. All right, Anthony. Have a good one, man. Thanks so much.
Cheers, mate.
Bye.
Cheers. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening today. If you have any questions or would like to get in contact with Anthony or Swiss8, please feel free to reach out to me, Jason Wood, at valoanguy.us.